By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we are going to look at another round tournament magic from the Swiss rounds of the Camel Trophy in Erhnam. And if you've missed the two matches prior to this, then no worries, click on the info card and it'll take you to the playlist, and there you will find all the matches. And I'm going to post a match from this tournament every Tuesday. Next week we're going to start the top 8, but as said before, this is the last Swiss round match, and we're going to look at an Atog deck that is completely mono red, and that's going to take on an Erhnam brew. Now this Erhnam gin is just such a popular card these days. Now if you want to go straight to the games themselves, check out the timestamp in the description below. That'll take you straight to game 1. But if you want to stick around for the deck tech, please do so, because here I'm briefly going to discuss both of these decks. The first deck is a mono red Atog brew. So this is quite nice because we of course had that very, let me put it this way, very optimal, very aggressive Atog brew with the blue power and whatnot. This is more like your traditional, I guess, well, not traditional, because there are more control elements in this build. It's actually quite interesting. So it's a mono red Atog deck, so obviously it's going to have a lot of direct damage. It's going to have Atogs, and it's going to have a lot of artifacts. Now, the reason I'm calling it more control is because we are finding a Blood Moon here in the main board, and we're also finding Nevin Earl's discs. Larry Nevin is in the house, so that's pretty nice. What else is there to say? I mean, this is going to be uber aggressive, and I think what the Erhnam player needs to do is get his troops up, that he doesn't take any big damage, empty his hands because there will be black vices, and of course watch out for that direct damage. The deck that is going to take on this deck is a very popular brew. It's the Erhnam brew with white, green, and blue. Obviously green because Erhnam is green, and we're going to see a lot of like powerful control cards in this matchup. We've got that full white control thing going on, disenchants, swords. We've got balance, of course, and from green we have the ramp capability. With the Llanowar Elves, we have Sylvan Library for card draw. Blue, we've got the blue power. So all in all, this is a very strong deck, and I think the goal for the Atog deck is just to play very opportunistic and just go for it. You know, go for it, blindfolds off, go for it. And I think the goal for the Erhnam deck is really to have the right answers, and this deck is full of answers. So I'm actually, especially after sideboarding, I see a lot of chance here for the Erhnam deck to take the victory here, but you never know. When you're playing against red, it's very explosive, but in terms of answers and card draw, I would say that the Erhnam deck is definitely a favorite here. Game number 1 is about to begin here. With on the left we have the Atog player there, and if you look closely to the playmat, you'll probably recognize the Lighthouse of Genoa, because that's a playmat that you could get, I believe, when you played in the Fish Liver Oil Cup, a very cool old school tournament held in Italy. And on the right side, it's also a playmat connected to a tournament. That's the Knights of Thorn, and that's, to my knowledge, the oldest old school tournament in the Netherlands. It's held in Deventer twice a year, and it was the first tournament I went to when I started kind of playing again and doing more than just, you know, kitchen table magic. I wanted to like go to a tournament with my old school cards. And well, there we see the Atog player apparently here taking a mulligan. Remember, we're doing the London mulligan rule here. That means he's going to draw 7, pick one, put that card on the bottom. And the player on the right, of course, then plays with the Erhnam gin deck. And there we see a Mishra's Factory. I hope for him, and there is a damage into a Llanowar Elf. I hope for him he also has a basic mountain. There it is. Playing a Chain Lightning, making sure that that ramp cannot happen here for the Erhnam player. A nice tropical island. Look at those black bordered goodies from both sides here. Oh, this is interesting. A Black Lotus and into an Angel, and this could be problematic. Okay, I guess it's not. What I wanted to say is this can be problematic. Because when you're a red player, you have chains and bolts, but of course the Angel has a toughness of 4, and this game is going really quickly. Look at that, a Sylvan Library, so that's another important card here played by the Erhnam player. And there we see the Atog, and he uses the other mana to pump the factory. Attacking here for 2, going to 15, and is he going to pay life for extra cards? That's a question here. That's always tricky when you're playing against a red mage. Especially this first game. No sideboarding yet, so I don't expect to see a Circle of Protection red here. And I don't believe he plays with any counter spells. He just uses the blue for the blue power and maybe a Brain Geyser. Then again, I could be wrong because everybody is making their own little tweaks and adjustments to these decks. Look at that. He's taking an extra card. So he's going to 11 here. Playing Ancestral Recall. Wow, wow, wow. Interesting. So that could mean a few things. Could mean the other two cards were really bad. There's a Disenchant. So no answer for the Atog. Then again, he cannot sack the Soul Ring anymore. Attacking here for 3. That means he goes to 7. And dealing damage is very important now for the Atog player because you don't want your opponent to... Oh, double bolt. Going to 1 here. This could be the end of the line for the Erhnam player. Having a lot of cards though, maybe he can find an answer. There's a Lunaware, that's a blocker. And passes turn. He also has that Mishra's Factory to block. And I guess he can attack with both. Because he can always sack the factory. Playing a Blood Moon. Wow. He wants to activate. I don't think it's possible. He says in response, I'm going to pump it, making it a 2-2. But remember, it's still a land. So as to my knowledge, it then turns into a basic mountain. But I could, of course, absolutely be wrong. Let me know how this works out rule-wise. Because I trust that these players have talked about it and came to this conclusion. But that is an important little thing that happened here. And there we see an Icy taking back the Icy. This is quite an exciting game. Playing an Erhnam instead. 4-5 powerhouse here. And of course he has that Icy to tap down the Atog next turn. Because now he has to give the Atog Force Walk because of the Erhnam. And attacking first for 4. That means some damage. Then bringing in the Icy Manipulator. So he's gaining control of the match again. He's only on 1 though. So the Atog player just needs some direct damage. But look at his hand. Only 1 card in hand. 2 bolts already in the graveyard. And taking serious damage now. And there's a Loa, but it is a mountain because of that Blood Moon. Nice to see Desert in his deck, by the way. And okay, that's it. That's it. It was kind of waiting for that to happen. I do think, personally, I'm not sure if I would have played the double bolt so quickly. Because, I mean, he's still not dead. 1 is still very much alive. But okay, he's dead now. So that's a victory for the Atog player. But now they're going to sideboard. So I'm curious to see if there will be some direct damage protection coming in from the Erhnam player. So let's give these players some time to sideboard and we'll catch up with them in game number 2. Game number 2. So we are going to see the Erhnam player on the right on the play after that loss. And you probably knew, okay, I'm on a 1 now, so it's going to be really, really difficult. But for a moment there, I thought he would make a comeback, actually. Curious to see what he boarded in, by the way. Playing a Mishra's Factory here, turn 1, Mishra's Factory from the Atog player as well. Tapping it here, do we see not a Soul Ring, but a Mana Vault. Of course, great index with an Atog because you've got a sec outlet. And attacking here for 2, so he's going to 18. And there's a Strip Mine, so he could take care of one of the factories if he wants to. That's what he does. And this is nice, of course, having that Mox Ruby to also go in for 2 damage. You know, when you play aggressive, all the damage counts. Look at them go here. Mishra's Factory battle. And it's open again for the Atog player to attack. But he probably has some options with that Mana Vault as well. Decides to attack. And that's about it. Curious. I wonder what he has in his hand. And there we see a Pendelhaven, of course, works really well with those Lunaware Elves that we can find in that Erhnam brew. There is a Desert into a Black Vice. Not sure how many cards the Erhnam player still has. And playing an Atog here. So there are quite a lot of artifacts on the board. Taking some damage there. Oh, it looks like he's still got a full grip of cards. Not finding a land drop here. Going to 14. And with that Vice on the board. Wow, it's looking pretty good actually for the Atog player. He's not there. I mean, he's far from it, but it looks good. Finding a second mountain. And paying 4 for a disc. Probably going to hit here, wanting to sack the Vault. And that's exactly what he does here. Taking 3 damage there for the Erhnam player. Going to 11. Probably taking 3 more from... Exactly, from the Black Vice. Going to 8. And that's it. He says, you know, I'm packing, tagging, and bagging. Wow. That was an uber short game. As we see that famous Ice Storm there as well. There on the bottom of his library. I mean, he just wasn't able to find any answers already on 8. No lands. And then your opponent, who has so much aggression. And of course, that disc. Although he didn't really need the disc, but he can sack it to the Atog nonetheless. And it's always nice to have some extra control on the field here. So, wow, this was it. What a game. You know, I said beforehand that I thought the Erhnam deck was a favorite here just because it has so many answers. But here you go. Here you see how good an Atog deck can work. And of course, the Erhnam player was a bit unlucky there in that second game, not finding any lands. Anyway, this was it for today. Thank you for watching another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And if you want to see more old school magic, check out the channel. If you want to help us out, leave a like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell, because then you get notified according to YouTube. That's very important. And oh, it's interesting here. We can see a little bit of the sideboard cards that the Atog player put in there. But what I wanted to say is we also have a Patreon page. So you can check out our Patreon page and consider supporting Timmy Talk, supporting the show. And at this point, I already have 30 supporters. So I'm super happy about that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show them to you. Let's take a look at the end scroll.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, early in the morning. Put him in the longboat until he's sober, put him in the longboat until he's sober, put him in the longboat until he's sober, early in the morning. Way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, early in the morning. Pull out the plug and wet him all over, pull out the plug and wet him all over, pull out the plug and wet him all over, early in the morning.
Igitus, figitus, sumba, kazee.